Hi YouTube, welcome back. Last week we watched the Titanic recipes. I done up. Retake.
Everything about the first-class experience aboard the RMS Titanic was extravagant and elegant. But perhaps nothing was more extravagant and elegant than dinner in the first-class dining saloon,
Ooh, I like
which
the
culminated
decor.
in this peaches in chartreuse jelly, something I'm going to make today. So thank you to Wondrium for
I
sponsoring.
don't like that color. I love peach flavored stuff. It's one of my favorite flavors, but I don't like that color. Speaking of peaches, I actually have a yogurt here that's peach flavor. I will be eating this as we watch.
This video as we dine first class, this time on Tasting History. So we started our month of Titanic videos with a soup from third class, then made several entrees, a cocktail, and a palate cleanser, so now it's time for dessert. And while that first class dinner menu from the night of April 14th, 1912 had several dessert options, none seems more interesting and frankly foreign than the peaches in chartreuse jelly. But what is peaches in chartreuse jelly?
What's chartreuse?
Well, most modern interpretations assume that it is peaches inside of a chartreuse flavored jelly. And this is chartreuse. It is a liqueur that was very popular at the time. Dates back a long time. It actually has a wonderful history. I'll have to do a whole episode on it at some point.
He keeps saying that in his videos.
It has a very, very herbal flavor. It kind of reminds me of medicine, actually.
I actually quite like medicine flavored drinks. Does that make me a freak? They remind me of my childhood days when my parents used to make me take herbal medicine.
Sweet medicine. But when you go back to actual cookbooks from this era, you see that chartreuse jelly sometimes referred to the liqueur, but more often just referred to the color. Color with a few drops of sap green
Yo, who's
to make it
she? What a diva! Damn! Look at that face card. You like medicine flavor? No, I just like herbal flavored stuff. If it tastes like grass, I kind of like it, low-key. Sheesh. Like matcha. Matcha just tastes like grass clippings. But it's good.
pale tint like green chartreuse, and flavor it with chartreuse, noyau, brandy, or other flavor. So yes, they were still using the ingredient, but not always. And the great Victorian cookbook author Isabella Beeton includes several recipes for chartreuse with bananas and chartreuse with oranges, and has a picture of chartreuse with peaches, though not a recipe, and it's not in color, which is kind of annoying. But none of those recipes do include chartreuse. So this version is going to take a little bit from Agnes Marshall, a little bit from Isabella Beeton, and a little bit from Escoffier, who said, when using peaches in jelly, they should be dipped into boiling water so as to remove the skin. They are then cooked in a syrup and allowed to cool in it. Now today we wouldn't usually think
I wonder if you could just use like canned peaches. Isn't that like the same concept, but just faster?
of peaches in jello as a particularly fancy dessert, but it would have been the show-stopping centerpiece of any fancy dinner during the Gilded Age, which is not only a charming show, but more historically is covered in a wonderful documentary series from today's sponsor, Wondrium. During my many hours in the kitchen, I often use that as time to start researching.
Wondrium is really sponsoring the heck out of his channel right now.
A course from Wondrium, which used to be the
Bros flexing, having a social life.
Yeah. An amazing library of educational videos taught by experts in their field, food, travel, and of course, history. And while watching this documentary on America in the Gilded Age, I came across a fact that made me wonder if the stationary bikes aboard the Titanic didn't cause somewhat of a fervor. Because only 20 years earlier, it was thought that women riding bicycles would lead to immorality. For it is not the proper thing for the ladies to ride the bike.
Oh yeah, ladies weren't supposed to ride horses either, I think. Because, yeah. Pish posh!
They wear skirts, of course, but if we do not stop them now, they will want to be in the style with the New York women and wear bloomers.
What are
then
bloomers?
How would our schoolrooms look with the lady teachers parading around among the boys and girls wearing bloomers? Well, land's sakes, where are my smelling salts? Now, if you want to be scandalized with more interesting facts like this, you can click the link in the description to visit wondrium.com/tastinghistory to start your free trial today. But whether you're wearing a skirt or bloomers or even trousers, what you'll need for this recipe is 16 sheets of gelatin or 4 envelopes of powdered gelatin. Now, by the time of Titanic, both types of gelatin were used, so you can use either one. They were usually either made of beef hooves or isinglass, which is made from the swim bladders of fish. So yeah.
Oh, what? I don't know. What's gelatin made out of these days? Isn't it plant-based these days? I mean, fish skin does have a lot of gelatin. It's really good for your skin. If you're looking for skincare tips, fish skin is very good for your skin, but it's pretty gross. It's still made of animal part. Oh, okay. I thought it was plant-based for some reason.
Yeah, either one's gonna work, but don't think about what they are.
Okay.
3 cups or 750 milliliters of water, a half cup or 50 grams of sugar, 1 cup or 250 milliliters of chartreuse.
That's a
2 to 4
gross shade
peaches,
of green.
and a cup of simple syrup. Or if you don't have ripe peaches, then you can use canned peaches in syrup. And
There
when
we
it came
go.
to the Titanic, I was wondering what they had, because the Titanic was sailing in April, and peaches really aren't in season in April, but they did have plenty of canned foods on the ship. And I didn't see peaches on the manifest, though I don't have a complete manifest. But then I came across a quote from first-class passenger Mrs. Douglas, who recalled, "The food was superb: caviar, lobster, quail from Egypt, plover's eggs, and hothouse grapes, and fresh peaches."
Okay.
So not only did they have fresh peaches, but they also had grapes. And in 1912, eating a grape was much more complicated than it is now. First of all,
Why?
they had seeds. And second of all, they put them out on the table in front of you. You can't just take them.
Why?
No, you would have a pair of grape scissors, specially designed for cutting a small bunch from a larger bunch that then you could put on your plate and then eat with your fingers. But
Oh, wait, hold on. What?
there would still be rules. When eating grapes,
Ugh. What is this called? Etiquette. Etiquette. Pish posh.
the half-closed hand should be placed to the lips, and the stones and skins adroitly allowed to fall into the fingers and quickly placed on the side of the plate, the back of the hand concealing the maneuver from view.
Wait, isn't this what everybody does? Half closed hand. Isn't this how you spit out seeds when you're in public? This is what I do. And then I put my hand on the table. Are there people that eat it and then go, "Pwah"?
It really sounds like a very stressful fruit to eat. Luckily, this recipe doesn't have any grapes, it has peaches, and it's not that hard to make. So first, mix the 3 cups of water with the sugar in a large saucepan and bring to a simmer. While it heats, soak the gelatin leaves or bloom the packets in cold water, then remove the simmering water from the heat and squeeze out any excess water from the gelatin and add it to the hot water. Then mix until it dissolves. Also, make sure that you never boil the water with the gelatin in it, because boiling it will make it lose its gelatinous properties. Then mix in the chartreuse and pour it into a well-greased mold. Now, if you have a wonderful period Victorian mold like this, then...
Okay, now that looks like poop. I was gonna say something about his pot. What is this stuff? What is this on the walls?
Will make it lose its gelatinous properties. Then mix in the chartreuse and pour it into a well-greased mold. Now, if you have a wonderful period Victorian mold like this, then use that. But if you don't, then you can use either a silicone or a metal bundt pan. Either way, you're going to set it in the...
Isn't silicone not safe for boiling stuff? Like, doesn't it seep microplastics?
In the refrigerator for about 1 to 3 hours. It's going to depend on the size and the width of your pan. You'd want it to be starting to set where it's kind of thick, but not too thick, because you want to be able to fit the fruit in. Now, if you're using canned peaches, you don't really have to do anything here, but if you are using fresh peaches, score a small X in the bottom, and then set it into a pot of boiling water for about 30 to 45 seconds, and then take it out and immediately put it in ice water for 10 to 15 seconds. Now, the skins should just slough off very easily, but if they're not actually ripe...
This is how I skin tomato and eggs in general. Just ice water. Boil ice water. I already got plastic in my balls? What? Did they find microplastics in sperm these days? What? Bruh. Oh, I did see a report a couple months ago that they've started finding microplastics in fetuses. And I'm like, oh, oh dear. Ooh. Hi, Yuri.
It's gonna be a little bit harder. You can try doing it again, but even then, you may have to peel them by hand. But frankly, if you don't have ripe peaches, like I couldn't find ripe peaches, then maybe canned peaches is just the way to go.
Isn't
but
canned
if they
peaches
are
too
ripe,
soft?
then keep some simple syrup on the stove,
I feel like
slice
it'll crumble.
the peaches, and coat the slices in the simple syrup.
Yum,
then turn
yum.
off the stove and leave them to cool. Regardless of which peach you use, once the jelly is thickened, insert the peaches into the jelly in whatever style you like, and then return it to the refrigerator for at least 8 hours. Though if you have a thick mold like this, fairly deep, it really is going to take closer to a full day to set. But that's plenty of time to like and subscribe, follow me on Twitter at TastingHistory1, and imagine yourself a first-class passenger aboard the RMS Titanic.
History time! Yep, 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 yep,
Now,
yep,
the
yep.
disparity between
Microplastics never harmed me. I think we talked about this on stream with cadaver studies and stuff. Like, microplastics would increase your chances of getting dementia. So we're all gonna have dementia. So I will see you in the psych ward! Face reveal in like 60 years.
between first, second, and third class passengers is pretty evident. What's less evident is the disparity within the first class, which is actually a lot more than it is between the other classes. See, the cost of a first class ticket could vary wildly, the cheapest being around £30 or $3,500 today.
Wait, what? Last video for the third class passengers, he said £7 was equivalent to $1,000 today, but £30 is now only $350. Oh, $3,500. Ah, そうか。あ、なるほど。
And the most expensive around £870 or close to $100,000 today.
Damn!
So when we talk about first class, yes, some of those people are like first class passengers on an airplane,
Emirates!
but then some of those people are more like people who own their own private jet.
Taylor Swift! Dude, going on a first class trip through Emirates Airlines is literally one of my bucket lists. Like, everybody keeps talking about how amazing it is. And I just want to experience it, even if it's for an hour.
But even at the bottom of first class, your cabin is quite nice. Besides a bed, there was a horsehair sofa, dressing table, wardrobe, and a marble-topped washstand with basin. Now, while the entire ship was centrally heated, the first-class cabins included other personal electric heaters, and you had a little call button that you could call a steward in, really for anything, but you could ask them to bring a personal electric heater for your bed. When I worked on a cruise ship, we weren't even allowed to have hot plates. Times have changed. But at this low degree of first class, you were still missing something that we would consider pretty standard today, and that was your own bath or toilet. For that, you needed to upgrade to a suite. Now, at this level of wealth, it was assumed that you were traveling with help, and so you would have an adjoining room for your servants. They were also generally a little bit larger and had larger beds than the other cabins, but if you wanted real space, then you had to splurge on one of the 4 parlor suites. 2 large bedrooms, each with a walk-in dressing room, a private bathroom and lavatory, and a spacious sitting room where you could host small parties.
I think this is where Rose's and her fiance's family were in the movie Titanic. Wow. That really puts into perspective how rich they were. Damn. Wow, she really was a rich girl. More space for sex? All right, that's enough. The craftsmanship in this picture. Yeah, this kind of stuff, like this material and quality for furniture these days, this is going to cost you a fortune. This is all real wood and real marble. None of that IKEA, like white oak veneer. I'm moving, so I've been looking at furniture and I'm like, everything looks so cheap. Like, I didn't realize how IKEA has really fallen in terms of quality in the last couple of years. Gosh, everything looks so sad in the showroom. But I can't afford better.
These rooms featured plush sofas and chairs, a writing table, and a faux fireplace. 2 of them even included a private 50-foot promenade deck, just in case you couldn't even be bothered to walk near other people.
Wow.
On the maiden voyage, one of the suites was occupied by the chairman of the White Star Line, J. Bruce Ismay, and the other by Mrs. Charlotte Cardezza, her son Thomas, and their 2 servants. And Mrs. Cardezza, sometimes written Cardoza, did not pack light, but rather packed like my mom going on a long weekend.
Okay, look. Whoa, okay. Mom catching strays here. I'm feeling a little attacked. You never know. You gotta be prepared, okay? Guys, for a 4-day trip, okay, let's say a 4-day, 4-night trip, 3 nights trip. How many pairs of underwear are you bringing? You gotta at least double it. What if you shit your pants twice a day? You don't know what's gonna happen.
steamer trunks, 3 suitcases, 3 large crates of baggage, and a medicine chest.
Ooh, that's
most
not very
first-class
safe.
passengers had people to do their unpacking for them, and so they could enjoy the amenities Titanic had to offer. You could head up to the boat deck for an open-air promenade with views to the side of the ship as well as toward the bow. Walk around to the starboard side of the boat deck and you'd find the gymnasium with state-of-the-art equipment like the electric horse, the electric camel, a rowing machine, and mechanical bicycles. For something a bit more aerobic, you could spend 2 shillings to play a game of squash on the indoor squash court, or swim a few laps in the saltwater swimming bath open to women before lunch and men afterward. This amenity was part of the Turkish bath complex, the precursor to today's spa. For 4 shillings, you could be pampered in a set of rooms designed to evoke a Turkish hammam. It evoked
4 shillings? How much is that in today's standards? Who shits their pants twice? I'm just saying, it's not normal, it's not expected, but I am prepared for the unexpected, all right? That is why I have a lot of clothes whenever I travel. You just never know what's going to happen.
in the words of the White Star Line, something of the grandeur of the mysterious East. Can't imagine seeing that on a marketing pamphlet today.
Nope.
You could also have a shave at the barbershop or enjoy a cigar in the first-class smoking room, as long as you're a man, that is. The ladies preferred to lax in the reading and writing room.
This is so pretty. I guess you can really tell trends just come and go and they get recycled. Like this kind of like, what is this called? The oval arch doorway is very back in fashion. These kind of furniture that's a little bit more flowery and less, you know, gray and beige. That's also coming back. And the wall trimmings here, like this is all coming back in terms of popularity. It's very interesting.
Decorated in the Georgian style with silk upholstered settees, or else in the first-class lounge with high ceilings modeled after the Palace of Versailles, and was primarily used for playing cards, reading, and enjoying a bit of coffee and tea. But as nice as these activities were, they were merely diversions between what took up most of your time, and that was eating meals. If you were an early riser, you'd likely start eating in your room, where the steward would bring you fresh fruit, warm scones and jam, and coffee and tea. And then you would dress for second breakfast. Yes, like hobbits, at 8 a.m., the first-class passengers would be called to breakfast by the bugle player. Breakfast included omelets, baked apples, steak, and mutton chops to order, vegetable stew.
Steak for breakfast? Mutton chops for breakfast? Yo, I'm finna fuck up some croissants. Enjoy that. 4 shillings is roughly 30 Canadian. So like 22 USD. That's really cheap for a spa on a cruise. Like spas nowadays on like all-inclusive resorts or cruises, they're very expensive, even more expensive than normal ones. That's very cheap. Puffed rice. Stewed prune. Ooh. Quaker Oats. Wait, so Quaker Oats existed. That's the brand, right? I still have Quaker Oats in my cabinets right now.
Stew and different smoked fish and a selection of carbs, which included Quaker Oats. Likely enjoyed by first-class passenger Walter Donald Douglas, who was the director of the Quaker Oats Company. Now, while there were many places for the passenger Walter Donald Douglas, who was the director.
He was a director, but he did not escape this tragedy, I guess.
Of the Quaker Oats Company. Now, while there were many places for the first class to eat, this version of breakfast would have been taken in the first-class dining saloon, which could seat up to 554 passengers. Its white-paneled walls stretched the entire width of the ship, and its portholes were elegantly concealed by leaded glass windows. Now, on Sunday, April 14th, breakfast had to be cleared away for the 10:30 Anglican church service led by Captain Smith himself, after which everything had to be put back for lunch at 1 p.m. Now, after lunch, yes, you could do some exercise at the gymnasium or the promenade deck lunch at 1 p.m. Now, after lunch, yes, you could.
What is this?
Do some exercise at the gymnasium.
That's an exercise? I feel like that's just there to like hurt your spine. You should look up the story of the Quaker Oats. It's so nonsensical. Okay, I will do. Yeah, it's just bouncing.
Or the promenade deck, but if I had my druthers, I'd head to the trendy Café Parisien on B deck, where many of the younger passengers gathered. Though I don't think I'd be considered a younger passenger at this point, which is kind of depressing.
I am.
Other options were the Palm Court or Veranda Cafe. Matching rooms on either side of the ship, they included potted palms and ivy-covered walls to mirror the dining room of London's Savoy Hotel. Now, all of these different places to eat really illustrates one of the main differences between the first and second, and especially the third class, because second and third class had their dining saloon, and that was the only place they had to eat. First class had lots of options for all of their
Honestly, if you're paying like $3,000 for a cruise, you better have more than one place to eat.
meals, especially for dinner. And leading up to this largest meal of the day, you would
that
head back to
corset
your
is crazy.
cabin to dress to the nines, as they say. Men wore white tie, and first-class passenger Elmer Taylor recalled dinner gave women passengers an opportunity to get out.
Oh my gosh, those dresses are gorgeous. My tracking's dead. Dude, this dress here is beautiful. Dude, this is so gorgeous. Wow. This is... Whoa, sorry. I really like this dress. Very beautiful.
Out their latest Parisian gowns, their most brilliant jewels. It was a brilliant assembly. Contentment and happiness prevailed. Once dressed, you could take the first-class elevators down, or, more conspicuously, descend the grand staircase.
The grand staircase from the movie!
To D-deck and head to the reception room to gather for dinner. This was a time to listen to Wagner and Offenbach, played by the five-piece orchestra led by Wallace Hartley. And you could order a cocktail to warm up your stomach for the 10 or 11-course onslaught you were about to enjoy.
Oh, damn.
Most of this meal was served by stewards carrying around silver platters, offering diners something from each dish along with an accompanying wine. They would start with oysters and hors d'oeuvres, then a choice of consommé Olga or cream of barley soup, before moving on to poached salmon with mousseline sauce, then filet mignon and chicken lyonnaise, then lamb, roast duckling.
Whoa, that's crazy. Wait, they got fish, they got steak, they got lamb, they got chicken, they got duck, they got every type of meat in one meal. That's insane. Jeez, the rich eat them. They have too much. They have too much meat. Right, born in the wrong century. I mean, that dress, technically, fashion hasn't really changed all that much because it's just trends, like I said. This dress is still, you can still wear it today.
And sirloin of beef with chateau potatoes. A course of punch romaine to cleanse the palate before enjoying roast squab, asparagus, and pâté foie gras, and then a dessert
I don't even know what this
French ice
is.
cream,
What's a pâté
Waldorf
foie
pudding,
gras?
eclairs, or of course some peaches in chartreuse jelly. Then there would be a course of nuts, cheese, and coffee before the men headed off to enjoy a cigar and brandy in the smoke room.
How big were their
Some
stomachs?
of the ladies would withdraw to the reading room, but in practice it seems that most of the ladies stayed at the table to chat in the saloon. Though according to some sources, many of the Titanic's most elite enjoyed that final meal in the a la carte restaurant, sometimes nicknamed the Ritz restaurant. And I discussed it in detail in the last episode, but this is where Mrs. Walter Douglas ate her fresh peaches and grapes that last night on the ship. We dined the last night in the Ritz restaurant. It was the last word in luxury. The tables were gay with pink roses and white daisies, the women in their beautiful shimmering gowns of satin and silk, the men immaculate and well-groomed, the stringed orchestra playing music from Puccini and Tchaikovsky.
Damn, this just seems like the epitome of like beautiful pretentiousness. But it sounds very cool. Yeah, their metabolism was crazy. Maybe bouncing on it does burn a lot of calories. I'm talking about their gym equipment. Dude who dresses like an 18th century gentleman gets marriage proposals all the time. I'm saying they just used to dress very like, it's viewed as a higher class than like sweatpants and sweatshirts, right? So yeah, I mean, I would propose to if someone's like, my lady in a suit. Maybe bouncing on it does burn calories. That's all I'm saying.
This may have also been where Lady Duff Gordon and Sir Cosmo Duff Gordon ate as well. Lady Duff Gordon was a wealthy fashionista of the time, and she gives one of the most complete first-hand accounts of the events aboard Titanic. And it's perfect to share for this episode because it is just so first class, and I don't necessarily mean that as a compliment.
Ooh.
She begins the narrative of that night by reassuring readers that I have never been a psychic woman, and in all my life have never been to a seance or dabbled in the occult.
Okay, you know when somebody starts with a sentence like, I have never been a psychic person, or I have never been a believer of the afterlife, they're going to say some crazy stuff.
But something warned me, some deep instinct, that all was not well. But despite her misgivings, she dresses and goes down to dinner. I remember that last meal on Titanic very well. We had a big vase of beautiful daffodils on the table, which were as fresh as if they had just been picked. Everybody was very gay, and at neighboring tables, people were making bets on the probable time of this record-breaking run. She talks of the multi-millionaires, the Wideners and Thayers, laughing as
I guess they did not survive. Suits are not common anymore. I hate wearing them. So you worn them before, huh? Yeah? Yeah? Was it a three-piece? Did you wear a bow tie or a necktie? Yeah? Did you wear one of those like suits that have like little tails on the back? Yeah? I love suits, man. I think most ladies like suits and uniforms. I also really like wearing dresses. No tails, tie. No tails? Not interested. Tail only.
As they dined with Captain Smith, and at another table was the wealthiest man on board, John Jacob Astor IV and his bride. And they were the subject of quite a bit of gossip. See, Astor was 46 and recently divorced when he married Madeline, his new bride of 18. El scandalo. But the fervor...
Wait, say that again? Hold on. Sorry, I was thinking about fuzzy tails.
His bride. And they were the subject of quite laughing as they dined with Captain Smith, and at another table was the wealthiest man on board, John Jacob Astor IV and his bride. And they were the subject of quite a bit of gossip. See, Astor was 46 and recently divorced when he married Madeline, his new bride of 18.
Well, it did show that he drowned.
But the fervor must have subsided because they were dining with former congressman and owner of Macy's department store, Isidore Straus, and his wife.
Also
Lady
died.
Duff Gordon says that these two so openly adored one another. They told us laughingly that in their long years of married life, they had never been separated for one day or night.
Okay, that's a little
Their
unhealthy.
bodies were found afterwards clasped in one another's arms.
Wait, is this the old couple I was talking about from the movie? Oh, man. May this kind of love find me. Not the drowning part, but the other parts. Very sweet.
After dinner, Lady Duff Gordon returned to her cabin on A deck and chatted with her secretary, Miss Francatelli, as they warmed themselves by the electric heater. Then she undressed and went to bed. But she hadn't been asleep for very long when she was awakened by a low rumbling noise. And then she heard voices out in the hall, one that said that they had struck an iceberg. So she got up and went out into the hall, where an officer told her that it was nothing and that she should go back to bed. It was also around this time that Margaret Brown, later known as the unsinkable Molly Brown, also came out of her cabin. On emerging from my stateroom, I found many men in the gangway in their pajamas. They, while standing, were chaffing each other. One of them remarked, "Are you prepared to swim in those things?" referring to the pajamas. Women were standing along the corridors in their kimonos. All seemed to be quietly listening, thinking nothing serious had occurred. By the way, in the Broadway musical Titanic, there's this wonderful song called "Dressed in Your Pajamas" in the Grand Salon, and it really talks about this whole scene of just everyone kind of standing around in their pajamas, not thinking that anything was wrong. But in reality, Lady Duff Gordon remembered her feeling of uneasiness and decided to wake her husband, Cosmo, and tell him to go investigate further. But
that may very well have saved them. Like I said in the last video, trust your instincts, You never know.
10 minutes later, he returned and told his wife that she had better put on her warmest clothes. At the same time, Miss Francatelli, her secretary, who was staying further below decks, came up and said that there was water in her room and that they better put on their life belts. A steward came to help them. We followed him out of the cabin. Before the door closed, I looked round it for one last time. I shall never forget that glimpse of the lovely little room with its beautiful lace quilt and pink cushion. It all looked so homely and pretty that it did not seem possible there could be any danger. At that moment, a vase of flowers on the washstand slid off suddenly and fell with a crash to the floor.
The ship was tilting?
When they got up on deck, the lifeboats were already being loaded, and she comments rather snidely about the willingness of the American women to enter the lifeboats without their husbands, saying that they have brought the cult of chivalry to such a pitch in the States that it comes as second nature to their men to sacrifice themselves and to the women to let them do it. She did indeed refuse to get into a lifeboat, without her husband. But there was a smaller lifeboat, Lifeboat 1, that was only capable of holding about 40 people. And there was nobody else around, so she, her husband, and Miss Francatelli all got in. It lowered with only 12 people.
Oh man, what? Listening to these stories, like that movie from 1992 is actually quite historically accurate. Only 12 people, but it could house 40? Why wasn't there anyone around?
And there was nobody else around.
Hold on.
About 40 people. And Lifeboat 1 was to get into a lifeboat without her husband. But there was a smaller lifeboat, Lifeboat 1, that was only capable of holding about 40 people. And there was nobody else around.
Was there no one around because they were like on a very rich section of the ship? Oof. And then meanwhile, people in third-class cabins were just like forgotten. Bro!
So she, her husband, and Miss Francatelli all got in. It lowered with only 12 people, 5 passengers, and 7 crew members. It really was the closest thing you could get to a first-class experience on a lifeboat. And Lady Duff Gordon refused to look at the boat as she was sinking until her husband said, "My God, she is going now." She finally looked up and says that she could hear the clamor of everything that hadn't been bolted to the decks sliding down into the water. I think that it was only at that moment that many of those poor souls on board realized their fate. For a few seconds, Titanic stayed motionless, while agonized cries from her decks grew in intensity, and then, with one downward rush, she plunged to her grave, and the air was rent with those awful shrieks.
Oof.
Then silence. Now what happened next is up for some debate. What definitely did not happen was they did not go back to try to rescue anyone. But the rumor spread that Sir Cosmo Duff Gordon had actually paid the crew members on the lifeboat to not go back and rescue anyone, and the newspapers dubbed it the Money Boat. But this probably didn't actually happen. What likely happened is they were justly worried about the boat being swamped, and the rumor came from a later exchange between Sir Cosmo and one of the crew members. See, after the ship went down, Lady Duff Gordon looked at Miss Francatelli and made a feeble joke. "Just fancy that. There is your beautiful nightdress, gone."
Ma'am! Hundreds of people are dead! Ooh. Man, I guess people, like, classy people being out of touch is the same no matter which era you're in.
Well, that gallows humor was not appreciated by the crew members in the boat.
Hell
One of
no!
them said, "You people need not bother about losing your things, for you can afford to buy new
Thank
ones when
you.
you get ashore. What about us poor fellows?" To which Sir Cosmo said, "Yes, that's hard luck if you like, but don't worry, you'll get another ship. At any rate, I'll give you a $5 each toward getting a new kit."
$5? Oh my.
And that's what I meant by her narrative just being so first class.
Yes,
And
indeed.
whether it was their wealth or position in society, or merely their position on the ship being closer to the lifeboats, the first class fared far better than anyone else on the ship. About 60% of them survived. And some of those survivors carried their menus with them in their coat pockets, so that today we can get a glimpse into those last happy moments aboard Titanic where they enjoyed food such as peaches in chartreuse jelly. So once your jelly is fully set,
All right, back to
dip
the
the
food.
mold into some hot water for just a few seconds, then set an oiled plate over the top and flip it over. It should just plop out. If it doesn't, return it to the hot water and try again. Then you can garnish it with a bit of whipped
That
cream
is
or Italian meringue.
That is a ghastly shade of green. And a ghastly like shade of green with transparency. I don't know. This looks like something you would find in Baldur's Gate 3 where like evil people are eating it.
Or just leave it as is. And here we are, peaches in chartreuse jelly from the last meal aboard the Titanic. Got some peach, got some meringue, and got some jelly, which is so jiggly. Here we go. That texture. I don't like jelly. Like
Me
Jell-O.
neither.
So
Yeah, I don't like it.
that's the first thing. I don't like the texture. But I kind of knew that going in. what's interesting is that at first I was like, oh, this flavor, I don't want my dessert to taste like the 150 herbs that are used in chartreuse. But then there's enough sugar in there, and the peach, it kind of like coats that weird medicinal flavor. But you get the medicinal flavor at first, but then it goes away for a bit more of a subtle sweetness.
Sounds actually kind of good.
Do I like it? No, I don't. But I don't hate it as much as I thought I would, so that's good.
Okay, between this and hardtack, which one do you like more?
This dish is a centerpiece, you know, but that's really all that it is, in my opinion, because I don't like jelly. So that, you know, don't let that influence if you want to make it. It's kind of fun to make, especially if you have a really cool mold. So as we wind down Titanic month, I just wanted to thank you all. These videos have done very well, and I was worried that an entire month of Titanic was going to be too much for people, but it wasn't. People really, really loved it, and lots of new subscribers. I hope you stick with me for future episodes, not on Titanic, because we do other interesting things here on the channel. Also, I finally finished my Titanic Lego, except that I am missing a flag that I'm pretty sure that the cat ate.
No! Anyway, also that Lego set is probably a couple $100, close to $1,000. That is a huge Lego set.
Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'll put all the links to my socials and Patreon down in the description, and I will see you next time on Tasting History.
See you next time. I would just want to slap it like, bah. And then it goes and like, bah. And then it goes. These stories from the Titanic is so harrowing. But the food looks great. Whiplash. He does a lot of research. Like, these videos take a ton of research. From that one sentence where he was saying how he couldn't find out if they actually had real peaches on there or what. And he listed like several sources in one sentence. That's probably days, if not weeks of work.